Yo, 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 Joes. You're listening to episode 313, the Warthog AIFV. This is a pre-recorded episode of GI Joburg where we like to focus on some legendary toys. Previous to this, we've done toys like the Rattler, the Trouble Bubble, the Havoc. All of these toys come from what we like to call the Sunbow years of GI Joe, where the cartoon was still very much a thing, and the toys showcased therein became superstars. A lot of people refer to that as the golden age of a real American hero, because those things got maximum exposure and entered the cultural zeitgeist. However, this week, we're focusing on a legendary toy which fell outside of that period. But if you know G.I. Joe, you know that this is an absolute gem that you need to have in your collection. And if you don't, come on, what are you doing? My name is Steve. I'm joined by my buddies, Paul. Hello,
Hey, it's time to talk about the flakvark.
Paul. And Rob.
The what now? Hello.
Flakvark. That's Warthog
Flakvark.
Afrikaans.
Whoa, okay.
Nice, bringing the South African flavor.
Flakvark.
Rob,
Yeah, we got you, eh?
Warthog AIFV, there are a lot of letters in that. Is that an acronym?
That is a lot of letters. This AIFV has AIFV. Yeah, yeah. It's an armored infantry frog vehicle,
Oh, very good.
which has
Okay.
absolutely insane, fabulous vibes. Honey, this is the shit.
What we've aimed to do with these toy showcase episodes is talk about toys that we all actually possess or had as children or both. So the delight with this one is that we actually have hands-on experience with the plastic ourselves personally, because we each have a copy of the Warthog AIFV.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
hell yeah.
But like we always like to do on these episodes, we do a little brief showcase of this thing's appearances in media to see if there are any actual sort of cultural touchstones other than the plastic itself. And
I hope they are. This thing definitely deserves to be seen in all media.
well, here's where it comes up short, boys, because the Warthog, as far as I can tell, was only animated in its commercial.
Yeah.
That is, you've disappointed. Oh, gee, Hasbro has disappointed me for
sad.
the last time.
Sad face.
By
For the
being
last
released
time, again.
by being released in 1988, it falls in that Joe the movie and before the DIC animated
The Gooch.
series really kicked off. The Gooch. The Gooch years. So as a result, like when Operation Dragonfire led the charge in terms of new G.I. Joe animation, it was all the 1989 armored vehicles that were featured, like the Raider, like the Radar Rat, and the Slaughter's Marauders vehicle pool. So Sergeant Slaughter had moved on already from driving the Warthog to then driving the Equalizer. But in its brief 30-second appearance in the animated portions of its commercial, it is seen blasting its missiles skyward to intercept a Stellar Stiletto. Yeah, that's it.
Gee, of all the vehicles.
Of all the vehicles, it's Warthog versus Cobra's, I don't know,
Space vehicle?
I love
space
these.
vehicle.
Like on the screen right now, we've got this great still. That's like sort of rendered. It's not rendered in a normal animated style. I love these. I love those like interstitials.
It's
Anyway, carry on.
rotoscoping, isn't it? It's they've filmed
Yeah.
the Warthog toy being played with, and then they've kind of intercut that
Jazzed
with
it up.
with these artist renderings or retracings of the film footage. Yeah. We also see hands-on play with the Warthog. The missiles are being manipulated by what I thought were child's hands, but I learnt later on that in this industry you just use adults with very petite hands to do the complex play maneuvers. I've watched a lot of Hot Wheels City. I don't know. It's a TV show where basically it's doing play motion. But because the actions are very complex, and I'm sure the shoot hours are very long, you see these very petite hands, oftentimes females, because they're small and hairless for the most
Small
part.
hairless.
Okay, so that's like a fact, right? Because that's not like how the cameo models are all actually men and not women. Or a cameo being pantyhose.
It's I'm willing to actually lay money on the fact that yes, most hand models in the sort of the toy market are female. Anyway,
Okay.
that's besides the point. I want to talk about these missiles because we're going to get back to this, circle back to it. But they are two-stage in a sense because in the commercial, we see the tips being removed, and then
Ooh.
the remaining portion of the missile scooching through the water.
Oh wow! So it's a missile torpedo? Question mark.
It's a mosquito.
We're going to discuss it, no doubt, when we get into the
Speed
blueprints.
dial.
We can talk a little bit about this thing's media appearances in comic books because it did get a little bit of time to shine. Very little. But in issue 92 of the comic book, entitled Thunderclap, we see the debut of the Warthog. It's driven by Stalker. He's got Repeater and Muskrat with
cool.
manning the guns, with Scoop and Backblast in the troop section.
Yeah.
They're using the Warthog to rescue a joint team of GI Joes and October Guard members who had been captured in Sierra Gordo. There's
My
good
hands
old...
play with toys on screen.
And it does get a decent amount of action, cutting a swath through Iron Grenadiers and Vipers as it escapes town. It's pursued by demon tanks
Whoa.
and
and
a
the
Cobra
Condor,
Condor.
bro.
Yep,
Yes.
and a Condor. It uses both its missiles. It's got troops firing out the back section.
This is
And-
such a great showcase. I mean, if it only had to appear
Yeah.
once, thank goodness it appeared like this.
And it's got the
ultimately-
cool stalker in it as well.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
got Tundra Ranger, Stalker. Backblast lays waste to the Cobra Condor, hanging out the side door of the Warthog, which is never closed. Like, those side doors are left open for this entire mission. I mean, you know, so much
Hell
for
yeah.
utilizing the armor of this vehicle for protection. These guys are like, it's like a
You know,
Vietnam-era
This
Huey chopper.
defense is a good offense, you know.
The Hasbro marketing guy's like, you got to keep all them doors open in the comic book. Kids have to know that the doors can open.
There's a space back there. You can put toys in there. Come on.
Absolutely. So key to this thing's appeal is the fact that you can put figures inside and they're completely cocooned, enclosed, and
So nice.
virtually invisible.
It's such a great update if you think about it of the original troop transport. You know, like it's not just transporting the troops. It's fully equipped. It goes in the water. It goes on land. It's just so much fun, and it's a lot more compact and I think fun to play with than the original troop transport.
I got to agree with you there. Although there are a lot of people out there that love the original troop transport. Like, guys get very excited about that. And
Oh no,
I
it's
still
a
don't
lot of
really
fun.
understand why, to be honest.
It's fun. It's kind of fun. It's pretty straightforward. It's basic. I think maybe it feels more realistic. You know, it's kind of like it could also be guys that were actually in similar type of vehicles when they were in the military. You know.
You're,
So kind
you're
of like
referring to the
feels-
1983 APC, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well,
feels
as
familiar
with
maybe
the
to them.
Rattler, the Warthog has a real-world equivalent, and that is the AAV7.
Hell yeah, brother.
Dude,
And
they look very
that's
similar.
what it looks like.
There we go. They're very similar in their look.
They have
Way more
similar
armored though.
three-man crew, a sort of a gun turret, a driver, a commander, and then a back section. The doors don't flip open from the side, but rather has a ramp that deploys from the back. It is amphibious in that it can operate on coastal areas. Sort of, it's a landing craft effectively, so it can propel itself through the water. And this thing was used heavily in the conflict of Southeast Asia in Vietnam. It's sort of that era. And I think it's still in use today by the Marines, if I'm not
Wow.
mistaken.
Well, it's in Battlefield. So
Seen a lot of
that's
That means
upgrades,
it
but
has to be used.
I remember being in Republic of Korea, South Korea, and going to a war museum there, and they had one of these AAV7s painted with the tusks, with the teeth.
No,
So
that's so cool.
There are versions that are so specifically the inspiration for the
Big
Warthog.
Joe fans in the military in Korea. For sure.
Or the Joe
confirmed.
vehicle took it from that. You know.
Yeah, okay, wise apple.
No. It's the other way around, Paul. It's the other way around.
Hey, I want to believe it. I want to believe it's inspired by GI Joe. I do. I really do.
It is.
Don't get me wrong.
Well,
Just,
that's a very cool real world version. I mean, it of course it also makes a lot more sense for to open at the back. I mean, you know, it's kind of like rushing forward. It's more important to have the entire front and sides protected. But like, it's way more toyetic to have these cool like side doors that kind of like push open and up. You know, I think I definitely prefer what they did
Proportionately, the
toys.
Warthog toy is foreshortened. It's a lot boxier. It's
Oh,
a
no,
lot shorter
absolutely, yeah.
than the AAV7. Also, it adds a gigantic missile stem to the top. All right, let's address it.
mosquitoes.
Are we happy with them being torpedoes?
It's weird. I never thought of them like that. Actually, to be honest, I didn't even know that these things were meant to be removed. You know, the front section of this thing.
What the hell, Rob?
Well, I'd always seen it like this, but also the thing is, my biggest experience with the Warthog, I mean, for most of my life, oops,
Take that.
was Stevens, and unfortunately, Stevens' sort of missile rack had broken. Like I always remember it being broken. So I mean, we hardly ever attached the missiles on, and if you did, you attach maybe one of them. So for the longest time, his one was very missile-less. So like it's only now that you know, a couple of years ago, Stephen kindly gifted me my fantastic Warthog. That you know, I'm actually starting to like get in touch with the big missiles on these things. Yeah, so I actually never knew it did this. I don't even think I ever thought to try and take his ones apart. Weirdly enough.
Yeah, I never. The feature of the dual missile system, I never considered that. To me, it was always like, this is a missile, and then you put that on, and that's like the whole thing. Like, if it's off, it's wrong. That play feature, for some reason, was just never... I don't know, as a child, was never...
It feels like a waste,
or
almost, you know?
adequately
Like, what do you
communicated.
do? Like, what happens to this front part? Just like, it shoots off, and this thing like bumps into it as it, you know, shoots past.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. But I do know that we use this. Like, I do like the idea of it being a torpedo, like it having a torpedo feature. Like, that makes a lot of sense considering what kind of vehicle it is. And one of its
you're
best play
banking
features
on-
is that it floats.
What, you're banking on attacking vessels while you're making an amphibious landing? Come on, that's such a brief
Well,
period.
you're still in the water. That's like
Wow.
the thing. Like, that's my thinking.
mean,
It's like when you're actually exiting, when you're coming off land into water, then you can clear.
It feels like overkill though, because like you're equipping your thing with two of these things, and they're absolutely huge. Like, you know, compared to the body size of the vehicle itself, they are like, it's a substantial thing on top of the vehicle. So you would think it would be used more like while they're in operation, you know, on land doing their missions rather than en route. Like, we're gonna make sure that we're safe, so we're gonna have these giant missiles on top of our vehicle.
Well,
Yeah, I
let's
like it.
consult our resource at 3djoes.com to
Whoa.
get some idea of what the
Bless you,
411, the skinny.
what the included paraphernalia had to say. Because we have blueprints, we have box backs, we have stuff to draw upon.
and
so
we
much
have
information.
lies.
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 Once again, shout outs to Carson and the team at 3D Joes. I say team, it's probably just one man and maybe a little bit
No,
of
it's a
support.
few guys. It is a team. There are like
a
little
couple of
guys that
men.
come in and help.
There's a couple
it's
of
very
men
cool.
out there doing their
The box
Few
front
good men doing the graphic
lets us
design.
know that this toy is called the Warthog AIFV Amphibious Infantry Fighting Vehicle. It's obviously manned by Sergeant Slaughter driving up front. Hardball is about to lob some grenades from the, I suppose, the instrument monitoring station. And then at the gunner station, we've got repeater. Spearhead, hit and run, and Lightfoot are emerging from the side hatch.
Well, now I understand why. Like, so I was manning my Warthog a little earlier this evening, and I was like, I'm going through my Joes. And now I understand, even though it's very incongruous, why Hardball kind of spoke to me so much. I almost put him in here. Because I was like, oh, he doesn't look like he belongs on this thing. Like, it should be like, soldier dudes going into a jungle. But it's, it's the brain memory of remembering the packaging. Like, he's front and center on this thing.
Just hide that gigantic white jersey inside the Warthog, and you're okay.
Inside and
he's not going to give away anyone's position. Moving down to the box back. Whoa. Moving down to the box back.
Computer says
it proclaims on the back of the packaging, it floats.
It floats. Like
now, that is a lofty claim. Some GI Joe vehicles that should float do not float very well.
Like the Moray.
Like the Moray. Like the whale. The whale takes on water in its various compartments and
like
will
the
ultimately...
flag. That doesn't float.
Well, the Moray actually looks like a boat, which is why it's such a betrayal.
Let me put it to you, though. I don't think there is any GI Joe vehicle that floats quite as well as the Warthog.
Yes.
You can toss that thing from 10 meters away into a body of water. It will and float.
It could also be, the way it's constructed. Basically, the entire bottom piece is one solid piece of plastic. And really it only starts to kind of like have things that, that are holes and stuff, but that's like above. So it's one big bucket, and everything at the bottom is basically just attached to the outside of that bucket.
Clever men made this toy.
It's the best way to design a toy if you want it to float, is don't have holes in the bottom of the gosh darn vehicle.
There you go. But guys, what do I see? I see a point that is pointing to the missiles. It says 2-stage torpedo missiles.
Oh my goodness.
So ambiguity lingers on.
We can't read. Cannot read.
However,
I think my childhood brain was just like, nope, that's not a pedo.
Let's flick down to the blueprints, because the box back sometimes took a little bit of liberty, whereas the blueprints were a little bit more considered, shall we say. So the box back copy seems more toyetic. The blueprints try to achieve realistic explanations for all of the equipment. And point number 9 is what we're interested in. It's the MGM 59 Lance surface-to-surface dual thrust liquid propellant missile. Now, what I take from all of that...
for anybody's song.
Yeah, they could have done with a nickname. With all that technobabble, I take from that these are surface-to-surface, so they're not torpedoes.
Yeah, they're not surface to water.
Yeah. That's how I played them. I took the blueprints as gospel. But getting back to what you were talking about, Rob, that these missiles were not a very big part of our childhood. Well, this was the first toy I ever got that was defective out the box. I don't know if it had been returned. I wasn't savvy enough to check tape. But I do have the box still, and there's no additional tape over the factory tape. So I'm going to assume this was a factory defect. One of my missile skegs, or mounting points, whatever you want to call them, the dog bone pins, that's the term that gets thrown around now, was broken off. So either I had one missile on and the other kind of resting on top of the mount, or I just decided to lose them completely. Which leads me to being an adult, and I removed the missile stem eventually, and kind of like the Warthog without it. Long-time listeners of GI Joburg will know that my Warthog is stemless.
Yeah. I didn't actually know that you got it broken, actually. I assumed that some sort of rough play occurred at some point, and you were like,
I remember
you, Wesley!
Wesley was across the road neighbor. No, I remember it clear as day. It was in the lead up to Christmas of 1993, and I had just gotten it as like kind of I guess a pre-Christmas, a warm-up to Christmas gift.
Jeez.
And I had spilled the parts out onto the seat of the car as we were driving back from Access Park in Kenilworth, where my GI Joe dealer was. And
It's not actually such a long drive, but if you're Cape Tonian, it is. Carry on.
true that. All of about 7 minutes in the car. But it was enough time for me to determine that this toy was broken. And not knowing what my rights as a consumer were at that stage of my life, I just lived with it. I lived with it all my life.
Did you guys also have that thing when you were kids? If you got a toy that was broken, like you didn't want to tell your parents because you knew that your parents would get like upset, go and change the toy over, and that you'd have to get something else, and that you wouldn't be able to get the same toy back. Did you guys ever have that?
Maybe.
I don't
think I ever considered it a possibility to change the toy.
I think that did happen to me.
Yeah.
I had a really cool toy gun that was modular, so you could actually attach different parts to it and stuff. And it was very had like sounds and stuff. It was the coolest thing ever. But I think there was something wrong with it. Like either it didn't make the sounds, or there's something like that. And my mom, it was basically like, "No, we have to take it back. It doesn't work properly. I'm not wasting my money on something that doesn't work." And that's how I lost that gun. And I don't think I got anything to replace it. Actually, I think she just decided that's it. We're not buying you anything else from now on.
I think what happened to me as a kid. We all kind of, I know that we all kind of did this. We all kind of nagged our parents for toys and stuff like that. And some of us like negotiated doing that and worked on sales pitches. So for me, it was an absolute failure if I got something that didn't work. Like I couldn't like go to my parents now after this huge sales pitch and be like, "Mom or Dad, you have to take this back to the shop. It's not working," because that would make me feel like I've betrayed the sales pitch. So I was always kind of scared. Anyway, I just thought that'd be an interesting question to ask.
No, that's a great question. Yeah.
Sidetrack.
Much.
My favorite, Joe.
Guys, I am going to just close us out on the blueprints by running through a few other points of interest. If we want to just have certainty on the missiles itself, point 8 refers to the ring on that front section, which the commercial insists you pop off. And it's the ring itself is a distance measuring data link or / flight stabilizing ring. So losing that mid-flight would indeed destabilize the missile, both physically and in terms of losing equipment that is key to its navigation, how it finds the target. So I'm going to say that, I'm going to call bullshit and say that this thing was never supposed to break apart mid-flight.
I think it's basically like the guys doing the outer of the packaging are the guys kind of going for the more toyetic approach to these things, Like it was just built like this because it was easier to mold it, in 2 pieces. But then when the guys on the, doing the photography for the box or, doing the blurbs or something, they see, it comes apart. That should actually be a feature. It's not just the way it was built; it's a feature of the thing. So actually, it's a torpedo.
No, dude, I think you're 100%
sure on purpose comes off.
All right.
You're 100%
well, let's close the book on those as surface-to-surface missiles, not torpedoes. This thing is armed with other equipment. It's got a 20mm sort of shipboard gun or cannon, the MK29. It's called power operated. Does that mean that you can operate it without having to hold it? Or do you
I think
envision... So. Oh, yeah, okay. So this thing can be buttoned up and you can still fire the gun.
Yeah, you can still... Because, there's so many things on this thing that feel, are purposely, you can use them from the inside. I think we always use these things as the things on the side, the grey bits, as like little grenade launchers. And obviously those you're shooting from the inside. So it makes sense that, the gun itself can be fired while you're buttoned up, kind of like in transit.
Yeah, that tracks for me as well. Like it's either or. Like that's how
I think as a child I never used it unless there was someone with hands on it.
Yeah.
But as I get older, the configuration of it is a bit questionable. Like it should be a more turreted gun instead of being on a stand like that.
Could also be powered means that it kind of is, it's the shooting of it is assisted, maybe. Maybe there's some sort of assistance in the way that when you shoot it, it kind of like shoots stuff
Yeah, it's
faster.
a button as opposed
I
to
don't know.
like a trigger. I don't know. Maybe.
You alluded to the smoke grenade launchers located on the
Yes, bro.
side. They are
Or
called the
anti-personnel.
12 diversion. These guys got a nickname. Multiple launch
Ah.
smoke grenades. So yes,
Yeah,
I mean this
they
is.
didn't want to call
this
them
is a-
anti-personnel.
Did you use them as anti-personnel grenade launchers?
I
Paul?
totally did.
Because they're not.
Really?
They're not. They can't.
Yeah.
They're not a turret gun. They can't be aimed at specific targets. They are literally like just
No.
throwing.
If you
No, they
fire off
just
6
flew
of
shot
these
the
things,
side.
they're going to hit
Goodbye.
someone.
Yeah, enjoy the
They're
nails in your
definitely gonna hit
faces.
someone.
That's cool and gang.
No, I think
Wow.
yeah. Me and Steve, I think more often than not, yeah, it was like gas grenades. You know, kind of just fired them off to kind of like help you
I
either
suppose they can also
escape.
be gas grenades. Yeah.
This is a
Like,
feature that we
makes-
saw.
That tracks as well, though. Yeah.
Yeah, look, this was a smoke intended as a smoke grenade dispersal system. I mean, it's got a bit of history in GI Joe because the Mauler MBT, probably the most realistic tank that GI Joe ever yielded, had smoke grenade tubes, launch tubes.
Yeah,
6
we
on,
all know
yeah,
that.
3 on each side. So this
Thank
has
you, Mauler.
a history in GI Joe as like a thing, but these were far better. These actually had holes in the tubes. So I
Yeah.
mean, not that we ever did, but you could stuff something in there.
You put something in there.
And they were a
Yeah.
lot less easy to
It'll never come
lose
out.
because the Mauler MBT ones just kind of just rested in there. These ones
Yeah,
slide
these are
in quite
much better. It's like
firmly.
a
Not in enough.
It's such
I-
a well-constructed vehicle. I mean, we've touched on it already with like the fact that it actually floats, but like I feel in general, it's a very sturdy vehicle. You know.
For you guys, Steve, for your childhood one, have you got any other brakes on it other than the missile stem?
When I tried to put because a friend of mine offered me a replacement stem, a fixed one.
Yeah.
However, not realizing this at the time, we 3 all have the European variant. And it is
Yeah.
a slightly different plastic. And I'm going to argue
Ah.
a slightly different sizing as well. It's a different pull of the mold.
Possible.
It happened several years later. So, as I pushed it in, broke some tabs on the ring.
Oh,
I'm sorry, man.
No.
That's all right. I
My
glued them.
experience on my childhood one, and I'm surprised I can actually remember this stuff, but on my childhood one, this piece here at the back, it was broken, it was cracked. I don't know how we
Nice.
got
Toe
that right,
hitch.
but we did it.
Toe hitch.
toe hitch.
Toe hitch.
Yeah.
The missile stems, we totally broke those tabs by accident. Well, I mean, those definitely went to Toy Valhalla. The aerial, this thing broke. It wasn't long for this
the
world.
aerial.
And I did break one of these treads when I was a kid as well. So like, because I've got the black one
Ow.
of these as well, the Night Rhino, and it's a really cool vehicle. It's actually how we know Dan Szymanski. But even on that one, I think I've got a loose tread on that one. But I also had that same kind of loose tread on my original one as well. So, yeah. That was literally all that was broken. Oh, and I think one of these doors. I think I broke one of the pins inside the doors. But otherwise, gotta say, this toy was brutal, man. It survived a lot of stuff. I mean, even this thing, I thought this thing was going to break, and it never did.
What thing is
The
that?
gun never broke for me. The gun, sorry. I thought
powered
the
gun.
powered gun. It looks like a power washer. If you guys look at it properly, it does look like something that
I
you
always
use to
thought it was
clean
the
other vehicles.
flamethrower, actually. That's kind of like because of the way that the front is kind of like shaped. It's not shaped like
It's very angular. It's not very gun-like.
Yeah.
It looks
Yeah.
like something else. Flamethrower, that tracks. The
Power
blueprints, I've got to stick with it for a little bit
Oh.
longer, guys, because I want to pick out the fact that this thing is capable of 55 miles per hour as its maximum, I suppose, on-road speed. And it wouldn't be an off-road speed, I can't imagine, or sort of beach speed. And it's certainly not the kind of speed it can achieve in the water, which is probably about 10 knots or less. But 55 miles per hour is like 80 kilometers per hour. That's fast. That is a quick armored vehicle.
It's
Well,
not
now I
fast by
understand how
Joburg
to
standard,
escape
but I hear
from-
you.
It definitely. I mean, it was definitely giving the cobras a chase in the comic book issue.
Well, I mean, how fast is the hiss? Isn't the hiss also doesn't it also clock in around the same speed?
It was racing demons, but I take your point. Look, either way, GI Joe was leading that charge and almost getting away with it.
Yeah.
Needed the Hail Mary from the thunderclap, but read the issue if you're so interested.
Yeah.
And then point 14, or sorry, point 11 refers to these battle ports, which for the longest time I didn't realize were these kind of, in the real world, these slots would be for seeing out of. I'm talking about on the sort of the flip up doors. You've got a rectangular slot which would be a viewport, which would probably have some like really heavily armored glass, bulletproof. And then beneath that is this interesting shape, which I realize is a sort of a swing piece of armor that you could push down and poke a rifle through for the occupants in the back to actually shoot out, making this a real gun bus.
Didn't we like? Didn't you guys also? I'm sure you did this as well. I also stuck the guns through the window.
I
Totally
don't
did
know
that.
if my figure foo was strong enough to position figures, because there are no foot pegs. I think maybe they're 2-foot pegs. You guys could check out your in-hand examples, but like,
Yeah, let me check now. I don't. Yeah.
it is tricky positioning the 6 troop members in the back. There are sort
it's
of a
not
system.
easy. I mean, I just chucked my dudes for tonight in the back.
You just throw them in. Let's talk a little bit about that. But firstly, I just want to mention in passing that we have a final point dedicated to the amphibious water jet propulsion system. Now, this always bugged me as a child because guess what? There's nothing molded there to suggest
Yeah.
that there's a propulsion system. That was
Just
pure.
have to accept.
Just accept that something should be there.
It totally exists, guys. It's a real thing.
But let's talk about the joy of the Warthog, and that is the fact that it holds comfortably 9 figures. And I'm going to also add into the mix of that if you're talking about the back section, you could fit figures holding guns and even wearing their backpacks, at least in the 2 side portions. So 4 of them are fully equipped. The guys who are seated towards the back wall, I don't know if I've ever managed to get that right, having them wear backpacks. But the system whereby you fit them in, it's basically a seat bar, not a seat belt.
Man,
You
a very
slide
nice
their legs
softish
underneath.
plastic as well. I mean, like I've never worried about this thing. I mean, the way they constructed it, it moves kind of out of the way fairly easily, and the plastic feels soft enough that it doesn't feel like it'll break easily as well. I mean, it's such a small detail, but it's such a fantastic kind of addition to the Warthog. You don't actually think about it. It's just like
I must admit, I always pulled the back, the bar that's for the guy seated towards the back wall. I pulled that out on one side and swung it to then slide 2 figures in, and then swung it back in.
I was lazy.
I used to load this up because I love the suspension of disbelief. I loved the idea of like my guys, my actual team for the mission being in this one vehicle, and then being able to communicate with each other and be protected and get to where they need to go. I seldom used the Warthog as intended as a sort of amphibious landing craft. This thing was front line, mixing it in, because it was the most armored thing I had to hand.
Yeah.
It absolutely was a stand-in for a tank. And for a long time, I used to just endlessly put guys in, take them out, put them in, take them out. Eventually, just because of the demands of play, I would just be chucking guys in there, like piling them up. Like
that's what I did.
Once
tonight.
it's closed, they're out of sight. Doesn't matter that they look like they're dead bodies in there.
Oh, I think I've told. I mean, you guys know the story. I mean, David and I. We're in there. We're in there. There's shit stain.
let's
Oh no,
go.
it's me. I thought it was shit stain for a second.
Let's go. Shit, I'm stuck.
When I was a kid, David and I used to go to the park close to my house, and there used to be quite a few more trees there than there are now. Steve,
Great.
you having been there, you know. And we actually dig a hole. We actually dig a hole. We dug a hole, and we actually kind of half buried or half submerged the Warthog in that and made like a whole fort. We
Oh,
did that,
that's
and then
cool.
and when we were extending the walls at my house, we had these huge piles of sand. And damn, I don't have that picture on me, but in that photograph, you can actually see my friend Jaden and I had actually like submerged a Warthog in this like sand mound and turned it into like a base, a fort. Really cool. Like you dig like tunnels through the sand and you put dudes there, like or
Yeah.
more like
So, Paul, similarly to me, you had the warthog and you had the bug. Which,
Mm.
in your heart of hearts, was nearest and dearest to you?
Ooh. Real
Shit,
questions.
it's so for me that's like a really difficult question to ask because the warthog was my
Precisely
everything,
why I
and
asked
then I
you.
saw the bug, and then I saw the bug, and then the bug was my everything. But I think I think the warthog inches out over the bug, or beats the bug just by a few like inches. And the main thing that actually makes the warthog cooler than the bug, at least for me, it's less fragile. The bug has got, like, as a kid, I played with my bug to death. So, the pod wasn't locked in there properly. Missiles were falling off. Tabs were breaking. Back part was, like, a little bit loose. Wasn't, so the Warthog just felt sturdier and more robust. And that kind of, and also felt more combat-based. Something about it just felt more aggressive, more bang-bang kind of vibe. So I'd say the Warthog, if I have to give it some serious thoughts. It's definitely the Warthog.
Well, could it be those glorious tusks? I mean, we haven't spoken about the deco of the Warthog, but for a kind of a OD green drab vehicle, it has that one amazing flourish. I mean, it's not part of Tiger Force. It's not supposed to be animal themed, but they saw fit to add the tusks and the eyes, and that is one hell of a decal. I mean, like, you'd be very angry with yourself if you screwed that up. Fortunately, I don't know if I got my brother or my father to do it for me, but like mine to this day still rocks.
Hell yeah.
I love that they kind of made this as easy as possible for you, because the eye and the teeth are on the same sticker, so you literally just straight line wrap it. You don't have to try and guess where the eye is, so you don't have like a warthog that's like,
Yeah.
or with two eyes like in the front or something, because you gave it to
That's
your
where
parents.
I
Your
think they
parents were
should
like,
go.
oh, we should put the eyes here.
And also, this is something that you spoke of once before in reference to Tiger Force vehicles. Like, if the angle of the eye is not tilted correctly, it makes the creature look sleepy.
Yeah.
So there's a fine balance between like aggressive, too tilted, looking ridiculous, and then too flat, which is sleepy. So yeah, having it
Tiger.
factory set, mwah, well done. Good call there, whoever designed the stickers. Yeah.
Smart
Yeah,
people.
that guy's the
actually
hero to
smart.
our people, or that woman, whoever designed this damn thing.
Guys,
Whoever
in
that
researching this topic, I came across a bit of an ambiguity, and it also stems from the blueprints. Examine, if you will, in front of the camera, the back of your warthogs, and you will find molding
Two little doors.
two little doors.
Yeah.
Actually, and all the that.
And those are the fold
Two little
away
doors.
rear entry / exit personnel doors.
Sorry.
Wow, rear entry, eh?
I was only 12 years old for a second.
Do you think,
Carry on.
as adults, do you think that those are realistically where this thing is supposed to have its crew or its occupants, its troops enter and exit from? And that the side doors are really just to facilitate play?
Yeah.
Or do you think this thing actually has gull wing doors in the real?
I don't think gull wing doors on a military vehicle is practical at all. Like, I just think from a military perspective, it's not even like, oh, will it be strong enough to take gunfire? I think it's just like insurance problems waiting to happen. So I think it's just easier to have the doors at the back. I can just
Yeah,
imagine
You need a
like,
complex hydraulic system to raise them.
Mm.
Yeah.
yeah. Oh,
But there it
But
was
that
in
is
issue
like-
92, doors akimbo, like flung
That's
up
no
so that
It's
you can
fucking-
have guys
It's
shooting
like
up
the final
sides.
scene in Karate Kid, bro. This thing's like.
Well, it's
Da,
the
da, 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 da,
you know,
da.
it's like Mars.
Da, da, da,
You
da.
fly.
It is like
Oh, yeah, it's
Mars.
like Mars.
Badass Crusaders. Wow. Thunderhog.
Perfect road vehicle. You know, it can fly, it can go in the sea.
Flying
you know,
pig!
Fly pig will go home.
Yeah, dude.
So, I have to admit, one of my favorite aspects of the Warthog is the fact that, yes, you've got this boat-like hull, which is one piece. Into that fits the internal section, and the internal section is all one piece as well. And that's in this light tan color, which is a very attractive color
nice.
to set off against the green. But I love the fact that all of the crew seats are unique. So the driver's section is unique and that's kind of enclosed. The gunner section
Yes.
is also unique. It's enclosed. It's got like a
Best
a
forwards.
diamond pattern on the floor.
Yep.
The driver's kind of in a semi-reclined position. The gunner is in a very 90-degree sitting position with his legs straight out in front of him. And then the intel gathering or instrument panel
Sitting to the
monitoring guy sits
Yeah.
off to the side, and he is in a proper upright seated position with his feet below his knees. And he has access, at least visual access, to the guys in the back. And I
Yeah.
loved the fact that, I mean, having watched Aliens as a child, you knew how APCs operated, that you've got the troop section, you've got the kind of the commanding officer able to monitor the screens and also instruct his troops as they're making their approach. And that just also set my mind alight in terms of the internal play of this thing. This is a toy that you didn't have to take out of doors or into an environment. You could be playing with it just on your lap, letting your imagination have this thing rolling across terrain or
Yeah.
crossing an
So
amphibious
much
environment.
you can do just inside this one vehicle.
Just
it
peering
kind of
into the
has
little
that
hatches.
thing- It has that thing that I think you wished the bug had, you know, that had this huge internal space inside it. It's a connected internal space. I mean, even if the guys at the front aren't necessarily facing, you know, they can still kind of, you know, peek over the top of the chair, or you can see the top of their head. So it is an internal space that can be played in, you know, like there is action that can occur in there, you know.
It's the Millennium Falcon effect. A toy that
Yeah.
figures can be placed inside and then sealed up, and they're in there and they're having
Yeah.
conversations,
Doing their stuff
adventures,
just
doing their
inside.
things, going about their ship duties. At least with the Warthog, you have multiple points where you can peer in while the thing is effectively in play. Oh, guys, terrific.
Which is cool for
Any
play motion.
drawbacks? Any drawbacks that you can think of?
Well,
I've got one.
oh,
I'm going to let
interesting.
Rob go first. Go for it. Go for it,
Well,
Rob.
I think it's a cool feature. It's cool that it has these things, but I really do wish that they were easier to remove, and I'm referring to the missiles. I think sometimes it would be cool just to not have them on. You know, if there was, it was much easier. And I'm not just saying the missiles themselves. I mean, the entire, like, you know, section
Stem.
that kind of controls them, STEM.
Mm.
I think it would be really cool. I think, I don't know, I feel like it's something we've discussed before at some point about the Warthog, but I feel like we might have mentioned that we wish that you can actually replace the STEM part with something else.
Yep.
You know, kind of like gun emplacement thing, or just
Another
something that's-
hatch.
another hatch, even, you know, something that is useful beyond just having the missiles on the thing. Because I think it's gorgeous, but I think sometimes it does affect the cool profile of the vehicle. You know, so that's something I would like, is if I could take this entire part off, just like bloop, take it off and be like, you look so cool and low.
So a feature that I don't think is specifically pointed out on any of the material is the fact that this thing's designed to have a winch in front.
Thank
not
you.
a practical
That's what I was
winch,
gonna
but a
mention.
molded one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice detail.
is my
It otherwise
biggest
adds
irritation
life
with
to
this toy.
Oh. Okay, Paul.
I wish this
So?
was an actual feature. I wish that we actually had like a cool winch.
Yeah, but then it would
know?
affect the ability of the Warthog to float properly in water,
Maybe.
unless they
Maybe
designed
doesn't
it
have to
in a
go
certain
there.
way.
Yeah, I mean, Rob, you're 100% correct there. I think that's exactly what is the way it is. I just think it would have been a fun feature.
I
Could have
know, for
lassoed
sure
up
it
some
would've.
like Cobra troops swung
It
them
would be
around
awesome
like,
to have it be
a
like
big
that.
animal.
You're out of control, man. Something
I
we
mean,
haven't
you
spoken
could
about,
hang them off
guys.
the front.
The
Not
thing
that
has
you
an
should do
engine
that.
cover.
Yes, yes, it does, and it's cool because it's one that you're not going to not realize is there. You know,
Oh,
like
and
I
it's
think
beautiful.
we had that thing with the Havoc where people are surprised that it has an engine under that kind of like triangle
And how
shaped
cool is
cover.
this engine as well? Like this thing is like this is detailed. This is not just like a few bumps and a cylinder. It's
Mm.
pretty detailed.
No, it's very
Great.
cool, and I really like that it's a grill. You know, you can still see it when it's closed. You know, and you realize,
Yeah.
oh, this is a play feature. I can remove this.
I must say, I always regarded that as a weakness in play
Whoa.
because,
It's like,
firstly,
aim for that.
having your engine up front on an armored vehicle is problematic because that's going to be taking more damage. So it does degrade this thing's survivability, or I don't know how much damage it can take. But also the fact that it is a grill, I'm like, that's going to get a lot of water splashed up there.
Yeah.
It's a toy conceit that isn't necessarily rooted in reality. But yes, you're
Yeah.
right, Paul. It's nice, and Rob as well. Nice to assert that you can see it. It's all
Yeah.
very kind
Yeah.
of visible, and it's making a point of
cool.
itself, bringing attention to itself. I, however, did as a child paint my engine
sliced
gunmetal grey because a tan engine,
Engines
that's
are
where the
gunmetal
wheels fall
grey.
off a little bit in terms of the
Yeah.
interior molding.
Makes no sense.
And I also painted my headlights because they're also in that tan molded color.
Yes.
I painted mine silver.
Well,
Oh,
I think
okay.
that's definitely an improvement, dude. It makes it look.
I'm
nice.
never gonna open this up ever. But if I ever
Yeah.
did to paint anything with the lights, I would go in the space around the lights and just give them like a slightly different green color or gray color,
Yeah,
just
so it
to
kind of
make
like
the eyes pop up more
blends
in a
better.
round way. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'll never do that because it's too precious. It's too cool. Although that said, there is quite a bit of detail that's hidden now because of the shell being closed. I don't know if you guys remember that.
I
so my old
remember
one,
the
yeah.
hair-raising exercise of prying it apart because I didn't apply the stickers before putting it together. I mean, what kid would? I had
Yeah.
to pry it apart so that I could get the sticker into the displays on the
Oh
sort
shit!
of the.
I just like I got in there, bro. I like got my fingers in there. I did that shit. It's
Amazing.
it served
It
me
was
well
a
as an
trap.
adult.
It
I'm not
was
gonna
a
lie.
trap that this vehicle held. It was a nasty surprise for us all when you realized on the sticker sheet that there were internal stickers that you missed.
So glad I got this at, later in life, and all the stickers, as far as I can tell, are all applied.
They're all there.
Thank goodness.
Boom! It's my boom
The
box.
sticker sheet actually has like cutouts. It's amazing. Like to put in the ammo sticker, the caution sticker, and the 2 screens. Yeah, so cool.
And the stickers do help it come to life. I think it does add, a little
Oh,
bit
big time.
detail, every now and then.
Big time.
Yeah. Applying the sticker, I mean, having the stickers on this it makes it way more gorgeous, I think. But
I
Paul,
also feel-
what is your issue with? Sorry, what is your? Yeah, go for it.
My issue. Well, I mentioned
Yeah,
the winch.
it was
thing,
just the winch. Okay.
I would have liked to have had a winch. That would have been a really, really great feature to have had for this toy. And again, this is a very peripheral concern. This is not a problem with the actual toy itself. I have to say that as far as GI Joe toy design goes, and as far as toy design goes, I think the Warthog is, for lack of better words, perfect. There's all these concerns that we've
Reach.
mentioned before, but they somehow just don't take away from the vehicle. I just feel it's such a shame that this was not used more. So we got the original mean green version here, and we got the Rhino, or the Night Rhino, the black version, but they never sought to re-release this mold ever again for anything else. And I feel like that is such a slap in the face and such a like a
It's
waste
missed
of a good
opportunity
product.
for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe because it is so complex. I mean, they did obviously. I mean, I don't
There
think they
was
cut
the
corners,
tan the tan and brown version, the Slaughters
cool.
Marauders version, or the Renegades version.
Ah,
I did not know that existed.
Yeah, it's
I
kind of
did
got a
not know that.
brown camo pattern.
Should be blue.
Okay.
But I think it was a convention exclusive.
yeah.
Ah.
But yes,
right.
there is a desert version of the Warthog if you're so inclined to track it down. Mm.
Does it
Well-
have torpedoes?
Well, for desert, it surfs on the desert. Yeah, that's kind of cool.
And I suppose
it's
it's
got the
came
whole
out at the
toot.
wrong time to be a Tiger Force vehicle. Because
And there are
they couldn't
three
they couldn't make a
dedicated,
Tiger Force of this. It would.
3 dedicated
What is
what
that?
now, dude? Tell us about it.
Yeah, it was an original vehicle for 1988, whereas Tiger Force
Yeah.
was
All repaints.
all
Yeah.
recolors. It missed the
and also
boat, as
recolors
it were.
of Cobra vehicles. Don't forget as well.
Could have been a
Joe
purple
was
one, bro.
repurposed
Called a
Cobra
shockwave or some shit. You know?
So we could have actually. Can you Python Patrol version?
Python Patrol version would have been cool. They could have
Yeah.
snaked up the face a lot with the stickers.
Oh hell yeah! You could have done crazy.
A Tiger
shit.
Force version of this just feels like hella perfect. Like this is like a Tiger Force command vehicle. I love that because of how the
but it
Tiger
doesn't
Force
fit with
operates.
the
They all hit and
theme,
run.
Paul. It would never have
Yeah.
worked for the theme.
I
need a
know.
Guys,
Cobra
I've got to
version.
ask, on your versions, just flip up the doors. There should be a
Oh.
extinguisher sticker
Yes.
on the interior.
On the inside.
Oh no. Mine's on the wrong place.
Yeah, mine too.
Mine
As
are
child-
on the back actually. They're sitting on the back of the vehicle.
So that
yeah.
should be the extinguisher should be on the interior back wall, but the green part of the back wall, and then
I
there
see
should
it
be
there.
should be Red Cross like first aid stickers,
Yes.
in the front
Yeah,
part,
I have
on
those.
the tan
Those-
walls.
For me, those are placed
Yeah.
on the tan walls there. Okay, but
Yeah, mine are
I think
also
my one.
I think my extinguisher
Ew.
stickers are stuck to the tops of the gull doors. Idiot child. But yes, Paul, yours comes from a friend of mine from Greece, and Rob's, yours comes from a friend of mine in South Africa.
Whoa.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
So,
An original.
as I say,
fact.
we three all have the European variant of the Warthog. It's in a darker
Best.
green. It's in a slightly different plastic. The American release is kind of waxier. This one is hardy, brittle plastic.
Perfect. The way that a Joe vehicle should be.
Like my
Yeah,
knife
funny.
rhino.
Funny you should say that after our Havoc discussion, Rob, where
Oh,
I have the European version and you two both have the American.
Well, you know, it's whichever
Yeah, we
version
have
I have is
Michelangelo.
the best version. So
I think we can
I do
call
feel
it
like mine's
a
the best
day
version.
on our Warthog discussion. Our absolutely phenomenal vehicle that we all three agree is one of the greats.
Yeah,
For me
absolutely.
personally,
I would
like
agree.
it was my childhood favorite vehicle, above the Warthog, above the Bug, and above the
Yeah.
Hammerhead. The Warthog was top of the pops, not because it was flashier, but because it was a good guy vehicle. It housed my protagonists. The other vehicles were enemy to destroy or to be challenged against. This was absolutely the vehicle for my 9 coolest guys to occupy. Maybe we should talk
Yeah.
a little bit about the included figure. We've missed on a good old Sergeant Slaughter version
Slaughter,
how do
Slaughter.
you not talk about Slaughter?
3.
Dude, I still love this version of Sergeant Slaughter. I still think he's like.
Well,
although I
this is
kind of feel like this is
how-
the most military version of him.
This is what I always thought he looked like. Actually, I mean, I don't think I
Yeah.
had seen the other versions of him. So I think this one with the the brown shirt and the the bullet belt and all that stuff. I always thought this was the version that this is him. This is Sergeant Slaughter. Oops.
When he wasn't driving my Warthog, he was absolutely using either Sub-Zero's machine gun or Sonic Fighter Law's big black
Yeah.
machine gun, which is the remold of Roadblock version 2's GPMG. So yeah, the bullet belt really
That's also-
made him out to be a machine gunner, heavy machine gunner.
Salsa. Yeah, salsa.
Oh, you can really see the difference in quality of our cameras. where you can actually see Paul's figure moving, while mine is it's like he's vibrating.
Frame rates, bro. Yeah, no, I feel you. I think I in the vintage line there isn't a bad version of Sergeant Slaughter as a figure.
No, absolutely
in my
not.
opinion.
You really can't go wrong in the vintage.
Marauders has missed paint apps.
Yeah, but still not a bad figure. Like, however, I do
Sergeant
have a
Slaughter's
strong
figures are
familiarity
pretty
with this.
basic, except
Yeah.
for this one. This one has the removable hat. It has the body armor. It has the sidearm. It has the bullet belt. It has the knife. Like this was my guy. Absolutely.
The
This
real military
elevated
man.
Sergeant Slaughter into being in the field with the troops. He wasn't just breaking in recruits. For me, he was absolutely a frontline soldier for GI Joe in this version.
Well, I mean, I didn't know about him like that. I was just like, oh, he's just this super badass. I actually remember asking my dad, like, how good is sergeant as a rank? I'm like, is it better or worse than lieutenant? And my dad was like, no, it's below lieutenant. And I was like, oh, but sergeant sounds better. And he's like, no, lieutenant, sergeant, lieutenant, major, or captain major, depending on. But anyway, I just remember like, no, but sergeant's the best. You know?
Well, in terms of bossing the troops around, the sergeant is the man. I mean, he's absolutely a very veteran enlisted man, which means that he has earned his way there in the eyes of, the rank and file. Whereas the officers just kind of come in and lord over everyone. This guy's earned everyone's respect. So
Yeah.
there's a dichotomy there, I guess. I'm not a military man myself, but I always assume like
Well, it's the same
the
thing as
Sarge is the
Beachhead.
guy you really respect.
Well, like the
Well, it's like
Sarge
Beachhead and
is
Stalker.
yeah, the Sarge is the guy who the lieutenant tells to do stuff, and then the Sarge is the guy who's actually in charge of the team itself. But
Yeah.
he's on the ground with the guys, more so than the lieutenant necessarily would be. At least that's how
Yeah, I
I've always
suppose-
kind of seen it play out in books I've read, movies I've watched.
There's a nugget of information on the file card which always spoke to me, and that's the fact that the Warthog AIFV, it says that though all GI Joe personnel are capable of driving the vehicle, only the Sarge knows how to beat on it to get the most out of it.
Yeah.
So it came back to the gameplay, the play pattern, that like I needed specific people to operate vehicles, people who had a kind of an ability or an affinity for the vehicle. Sarge was the natural choice because he came with it, but this file card gave me license to put anyone in that driver's seat. I just seldom did. It was like
Standard
Sarge,
play.
you can go in
He's
there.
the
I mean,
man.
he was never like a premier figure for me. He was never like my guy. So finding a natural place as the Warthog driver just gave him a standard function, and also kind of freed up the other points, the more interesting points of the vehicle, for figures that I'd rather have in there.
Yeah.
Like mainframe.
It's also, I think, a big thing as well is that, we didn't necessarily know that he was a celebrity outside of, being a character in GI Joe.
Exactly, bro. Exactly, because what did we know about WWE in South Africa, and what we caught was so like late.
Yeah, I think it was very late in life, or not late in life, but once we got access to the internet and Joe and stuff like that, that we really learned like, oh, he's his actual personality,
For
he's
me,
a
it
real
was
guy.
the movie.
Or was it the
My
movie that did it?
touchstone for Sergeant Slaughter was GI Joe the movie. Like he was the only figure I had from that
No, for
movie.
me, it was
I
Hunter's
had
movie.
I had Lifeline and Iceberg, but they had very small parts. Slaughter was the one.
They didn't count. She was the big man.
Because in the credits, they're like, they got Sergeant Slaughter as himself, and then David and I,
Yes.
and I'm sure I've mentioned this to you guys, but at the end of the credits, always like, this doesn't represent anybody dead or living or whatever. We're like, except for Sergeant Slaughter, he's real. He's a real guy. He's real. We don't know who he is, but he's real.
I'm glad you sat through the credits. I don't think I did that very often.
Well, I'm glad that I did because
They're
I made
up
mention
front.
this to you on the Action
It
Force
says Sergeant Slaughter as Sergeant
videotape
Slaughter, or Sergeant Slaughter as himself.
as himself. But also,
Alright.
but I'm glad that I did because on the Action
Just-
Force videotape, at the end of the credits, they've got an episode for Save the Missouri. Is in there. It's like
Okay.
a bonus Easter egg, whatever.
Interesting.
Anyway, but that's
Sink the Missouri?
Save the Missouri. Sink the Montana. Sink the Montana.
Montana.
Sorry, Save the Missouri. Sink the Montana. And sorry, bro. It's like
Totally the same
at least it
Sorry,
was
Americans.
States, right? Damn America and its confusing names. Damn my memory.
this is why America's going down, because we can't even remember the names of all the states. Honestly,
Dude, I think
a
this
couple of South
guy.
Africans can't remember all the states.
I think this GI Joe is responsible for my friend David becoming a huge WWE or WWF then WWE nut. So Dave, if you ever watch this, and I don't think you ever will, but yeah, I think this is why you got into WWF because he found out who Sergeant Slaughter was, and then he actually looked into it. He had the internet. So I think he figured it out, and then he started becoming more and more interested because we used to have WWE on the second Mnet channel. So Dave used to watch like WWE Raw and all that stuff when he could catch it there, and he knew all the storylines. And then he was buying the games. But I think it all started with this man over here, with good old Sergeant Slaughter. Oh,
Hell yeah!
coming down, eh? It's raining cats and dogs here. It's raining cats and dogs. Hold on,
That might
on,
explain
wait.
why we've had a bit of lag on this episode.
Oh.
I would just like to say that with regards to the Warthog, well, what more can be said? It's a delightful vehicle, an absolute gem of the line, coming in the period where a lot of people say they were getting out of Joe and pursuing other interests. But if they missed out on this, it's a very compelling one to circle back for, because this absolutely looks in place with the 1983 to 1986 green team, as it were. It has a classic G.I. Joe approach. It is fully protected. All your occupants are in their hatches. It's just so exciting from a play perspective.
Ugly. Yeah.
And, the criticisms are minor, nitpickish even. I, for one, wished that the ambiguity of its function was corrected by having molded propellers. Just anything to denote that there's propulsion down there, that this thing is intended to be able to power itself through the water. Like, it didn't have to be much, just a bump or something, a nozzle. It didn't have to break the lines. It didn't have to be a piece that you'd clip in.
Come on.
Give us something. So
I needed
that.
at the front.
Give us a nozzle.
Yeah, even something as token as that molding in the front to suggest that there is supposed to be a winch there. That would have just, as I say, cured my ambiguity when it comes to this vehicle.
The top. Well, yeah, I'm always eternally grateful that I own one, because it was definitely one of my favorite toys to play with as a child. Yeah, I don't think I ever saw it in shops. So yeah, I'm always grateful that I do have one. I have my own one.
Oh, dude.
And it made this
I saw
episode
it in a
possible.
shop once, and that's when I bought it.
313 would not be here without us all owning one of these. So, thank
Hell
you.
yeah, man! I don't even think. I wonder if GI Joburg would even be here if we didn't have a Warthog. I think the Warthog was pinnacle to my love for GI Joe.
Yeah, this is the whole.
Quite crucial to my GI Joe. Love
I
GI Joe.
think you
There you
might be
go.
onto something there, Paul.
Go to
A
GI
lifelong fandom for G.I. Joe started with the Warthog AIFV.
And Dion's. For me, anyway.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Dions.
Dions.
As always, guys, we salute our Patreon members. If you'd like to join the Patreon group, you'd have early access to this podcast. Woohoo!
Yeah, you're watching
You're
this
hearing
before
this
everybody
before
else.
other people because you're a patron. Thank you,
Because
patron.
you're cool. Thank you.
And
Tell
there
your
are other
friends.
perks as
Tell your
well,
friends.
like discounts on merchandise and
Yeah.
access to our Discord, various other avenues that we have for the patrons. If you are members of the YouTube membership program, you get my weekly vlog, for better or for worse. This week we did a rundown of like my favorite figures from the 1986 series and which
Ooh,
ones
cool.
rise to the top or which ones are kind of mid. It
Rob,
was an
do you
interesting
think-
exercise.
Bad ones.
Rob, I think you and I should do that, and then we can put that on the Patreon and add to Steve's
sure.
YouTube thing as well. Yeah, with the
Yeah.
yeah.
Favorite
Why should I be having all the fun?
Don't
Yeah,
forget.
man,
Alright,
that's
guys.
totally. I'm totally down to. I
Time for
want to
you to
have
have
that
some fun,
conversation.
Paul. Have
I
some
want to
fun,
have
Paul.
that mental exercise.
Have fun. And get better
Next
soon,
week-
by the way.
Next week,
Thanks,
I
bro.
think we are going to delve into some more cartoon episodes. It's been a while since we reviewed some episodes from the cartoon. Maybe we'll finally talk about Renegades, the introduction of Tomix and Zaymont, and then with G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero from Sunbow. I think we said that we were going to do the one with the ghosts, the Phantom Brigade.
Phantom Brigade, yes.
That sounds right to me.
Because
Don't
we're
mess with
waiting-
the
we're
forces
waiting-
of darkness.
We're waiting for the
You're messing with
25th.
things you do not understand. Sorry.
Yeah, good. You love that stuff. We're waiting for the 25th to talk about Cobra Commander issue number 2, and hopefully G.I. Joe issue number 304.
Whoa.
We'll see. We'll see. Maybe Duke
might
3.
actually get
Duke
there.
Duke 3. We'll see
I
what
think
comic
we
books
do
are
something
available
in
by then.
March, eh? Yeah.
Okay. Well, in that case,
Yeah.
until next time,
But Cobra Commander,
play with your toys.
Commander. Yeah, play with your Warthogs.
Commander.
You hogs.
Oh yeah, dudes. Enjoy your warthogs. Have fun.
Yo, Joe.
Don't do drugs.